Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my new show, Out of Nowhere. Been going about, I don't know, 5 months now. We've had some terrific guests on my show in the last 5 months. Um, I'd like to, my next guests have been on before, and it's nice to have them back again. It's Lala Bright and Bob, I think it's McGuire. McGuire, is it?
McGuire.
McGuire. Yeah, my special guest today is Lala Bright and Bob McGuire. They are UFO paranormal power couple who were thrown together by the phenomena. She's a psychic medium and experiencer. He is a scientist and engineer with international recognized credentials. Can we please welcome Bob and Lala to the show?
Just in
Hello
time
there.
arrival. Oh, Bob, it's good to be back on with you. How you been?
I've been good, thank you. It's been a while since you were last on the show, I think.
I know. Thank you for having us on.
Well, yeah, we'll start. I've got some from last time here as well. Um, on your bio, Facebook says you are an artist, an experiencer, a dog abductee, medium, remote viewer, starseed, and future ghost. That sounds like you have the abilities all your life. What is your earliest memory of the ability showing up in your life?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, my dad, was a psychic and a Reiki healer, so I had him to help guide me. Um, but I always, from like the age of 5 that I can remember, I always could hear spirits talk to me or see things that other people didn't really see. But that, like my neighbor, we called Grandma Cheyenne. She passed away. My parents and I went to a Baltimore, Maryland grave site, which has thousands of graves, and they were looking for her. And I heard her in my ear say, "I'm over here," and she led me there. So it wasn't like I was just hearing stuff. I had confirmation that they were really there.
Yeah, I know you've had lots of UFO sightings. Tell us about them. Did you experience missing time and abductions?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
most of my life, it didn't register what was going on for until I was like an adult. I've always had missing time here and there every year. It'd be multiple times, and I'd either get in trouble for it, and I wouldn't know what to say because I didn't have an answer. Um, I'd have dreams. I mean, when I was even, I guess it all started 5 for everything. I'd have dreams multiple times a month, every month for years, of the same dream of me as a little girl in my backyard at night, looking up, and there'd be a bunch of like silver disc UFOs leaving slowly over my head. And not until a couple years later did I find out they were really UFOs that I was dreaming about from watching a movie with my dad. Um, and I had an implant in my leg. I found out 20 years ago by accident. I mean, I've always had them around.
Bob, you know when you first get into this field, you hear about people that have huge number of experiences, and you go, "I hope I don't run into one of those." And here I am. She's my girlfriend. I cannot believe all she has been through.
You're
Exactly. You must think sometimes, why is it always happening to Lala?
I think that every day.
I don't know. I wonder if maybe they helped make me, or I'm a hybrid, or they tinker with me, or I give them some type of information that they collect because there's implant, I think, for monitoring, but for information too. I just don't know.
Do you think you're a star seed then?
I do only because years ago I never felt at home here. I've never really fit in with anybody. And I just looked up at the stars and I said, Where's my home? Where am I from? And I went to sleep and I had a dream and it said M56. And so I woke up and I Googled it. And that's when I found out about the Lyrans and the Palladians. I didn't know. And tons of people know about this. I had no idea about these types of aliens at all.
If I had $1 for every time somebody we've talked to has said, "Oh, she's a starseed," I could have a really nice steak meal every day.
Tell us a bit how you came together.
Yeah, go for it.
So a couple years ago, I lost my mom, my dad, my boyfriend. We were together 15 years. We have a son together. And late at night, I didn't really have anybody to talk to. So late at night, I found this show on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio, and a guy named Dave Scott runs it. And Dave was my boyfriend who passed, and they kind of look similar, which was odd. But anyway, so I would fall asleep listening to it, and all of a sudden Bob came on, and I got that usual feeling I get when I'm supposed to give someone a reading. And so I found him on Facebook, and I said, "I know this sounds strange, but I have a message for you, and I don't want anything, and you don't have to accept the message, but I just want to ask if it was okay." And I gave him the message, and he liked it, so he tested me and see if I was real, and we started a friendship and a business, and then eventually we dated and we live together now, and we do videos of what we find and everything like that.
And 2 years prior to her giving me the reading, I had gone and visited, out of curiosity, went and visited Chris Bledsoe. And my life has had nonstop experiences in it since I visited with Chris Bledsoe, including a miraculous healing. My cardiologist released me from his care because my heart, after 3 heart attacks and a coronary bypass, is completely healed.
Oh, healed, completely healed. How
100%,
amazing is that?
100% function.
My God. You are a remote viewer. Have you ever had any training? And can you give us some examples? Where did you remote view for someone or some group?
So I wasn't trained in the beginning growing up. I was trained eventually with Bob with Simeon Hines.
Simeon Hines.
Which he's wonderful, very kind, teaches. I have a hard time understanding certain things, and he was a great teacher. So I used my psychicness and remote viewing. I used to help with cold cases a couple years ago. And I'd have to remote view where the bodies would be, and then psychically who did it, which was a lot. It was a lot to take in. It was sad. It's always children usually. It's always the family that does it. So that I stopped doing that after a while. But when Simeon taught us, it was interesting. So when I do psychic readings, I have code images for, like, teddy bear means birthday or rose anniversary. And for remote viewing, a volcano meant not on Earth, another planet. And that's interesting. That I thought was interesting.
And Simeon's a student of Ingo Swann's, and he's published many books.
Very interesting about that. Tell us a bit about this new visitor out in front of your house the other night. What's been happening to you?
Oh, yeah. So we moved in here together, and almost immediately we began to have what I would call ghostly activity. Things would move, we'd hear bumps, occasional voices and sounds. Things would move and we couldn't find them, and she would find them with dowsing rods. So I decided to put up cameras inside to see if I could catch anything. We immediately began to notice that our bedroom was full of orbs, just full all the time. I think
there's a portal
just nonstop.
But there's a portal outside too.
One camera we pointed at the front door to see if someone was entering or not, but we got surprised. in the middle of the night while all of us were asleep, the light in the hall, in the front door area, turned on, and you could see a nearly invisible, but not completely invisible, apparition walk by the camera. And as it walked by the camera, which has a microphone, recorded an absolutely perfectly understandable electronic voice phenomenon. And it was her deceased boyfriend saying hello to his son.
Amazing.
And that, by the way, that video is in our evidence that we make freely available.
And so also outside recently, I got really addicted to the visitors we got outside, crafts, spirits, orbs, to the point where I had to take a break. I've been getting back into it again. And when I took a break, they kind of took a break outside too. And now that I'm getting back into it, we've gotten flashes are coming back. These orbs that aren't exactly orbs, but they go in and out of the sky, but there's no clouds. They're literally going in a pocket, like portal pockets.
Right.
And I got it on video. I mean, it's interesting. The past couple nights,
we got kind of worn out because staying up all night all the time and having a kid in school, all that stuff, you wear out. And so we kind of slowed down doing it. But now that we're kind of back into it, summer's here, there's lots of free time. What I call surveillance craft, which we have like 2 or 3 dozen photos of, returned last night in a big way.
What do you think their agenda is then?
So one night I was sitting in the kitchen fiddling with one of my cameras. It was a Psionics Opsin low light level camera. And I said, I feel like I need to go outside. And Lila walks in from the bedroom looking at me and walks up and says, "Do you think we should go outside?" And so we went outside and I began videoing, and the sky filled with CE5 light craft for minutes. And so we were hooked in. We sat out there and looked and saw and heard stuff. And she turns and says to me, "Hey, give me the big camera." So I handed her my big Canon EOS professional camera. She picks it up, points it out in the backyard toward the ground, and goes click. And in that picture was some smoky looking stuff and the face of a gray alien right in the middle of it. And it was 6 feet in front of us. And within 24 hours, it was talking to her telepathically.
We're supposed to do self-disclosure. We're supposed to help them. They're supposed to help us. It wasn't very detailed. It was very short. But I also believe that they monitor the people that they implant. They monitor them, I think, 24/7. We might not notice it. So we're supposed to be helping, but they're also monitoring. I don't know why yet, but that's one of the reasons that we're doing this, is to find out.
And we were out one evening, and we were chit-chatting, talking like we usually do out there, hoping something would show up so we could get it. And then, so this regularly triggers our security camera in the backyard, us flashing or yapping or whatever. And there was a trigger where you can hear us talking. And two videos later, trigger where you can hear us talking. And in the middle, we're not talking. But a black helicopter is 100 feet over our house, flying through a gated community with hundreds of houses in it, so loud it had to wake up everybody in the community. We had missing time because we have no memory of it, and not a single neighbor complained about the noise.
We wouldn't have known if we would have looked over the video.
And I don't know why we looked at that video, but we just decided to look at it. And I says, "That's us, and we're not talking." I says, "Before I can see you flashing the camera, and after I can see you flashing the camera, I don't remember this helicopter. And it was loud as hell." And it just, we have no idea what it zapped us with, but we don't remember a second of it. And that was a 20-second video.
So nobody around your area had heard them helicopters.
No, it was so loud it would have woken up the entire community because it was after midnight. Nobody complained.
Well, look, every time I've ever seen a craft, and I mean a detailed craft in
Yeah.
person, there's always been a helicopter nearby. Always. It's weird.
And
Black.
it's a black helicopter
Black
as well.
helicopter, not marked.
And sometimes there'll be a lighter color off far away from them watching, but they never get close. It's always the dark ones that get close to the craft. That's just personally what I've seen.
So strange. Why? So you had a break from it, and then you've got back into it again.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what's happened next. What's happened to you and your family a few years ago?
The spirit.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so weird to say out loud. Okay.
No, just tell the story. It's an interesting story.
I believe like I said, my parents died in the same year. A year later, my boyfriend died, and then a year later, I lost a friend. And I think something negative had something to do with it, because I know it sounds weird, but a couple months before my dad passed, I was visiting my dad, helping him take the trash out at night, and over their house, these like 3-foot orange orbs, 5 of them, they were so close they could have touched the roof, appeared in a V. And I said, "Do you see it?" And he said no, robotically, and he went in the house like a robot. And I looked back up and they faded away. And the point is, I think they were warning me. So when I needed to be warned of a death, and something alien would happen, or UFO would happen, and then when someone would die, something negative in the paranormal field would happen, like bad. I mean,
Yeah.
I woke up being raped by something that wasn't there after my parents died, and just like all this other creepy stuff. And I keep having dreams of like this man with pure white eyes, just white, just smiling at me, really creepy. And so I'm trying to research. It could have been a reptilian. I know they do that. It could have been an incubus. It could have been a demon. So that's my mission partly now, is to find out. And it happens to people. They lose family members. They do have sexual assault. I mean,
Yeah, they do.
crazy,
SA, remember SA. We don't want Bob removed
Sorry.
from YouTube. We don't want you to get into trouble.
But I'm not.
I know you're fine.
I'm not crazy. I kept it to myself for 2 years. I was so scared to even talk about it. So
I can imagine you would be. I would be if anything happened like that.
So after she gave me my reading that she offered me, I was completely convinced, totally convinced, with many pieces of evidence that she was in contact with my mother who had passed. And then while she was interacting with me, telling me things my mother was telling her, another lady walked up, and she says, this little lady's walked up. She's about short, maybe just a little over 5 feet. And she has a really thick Southern accent. And I can't understand what she's saying, but she's really animated and is jumping up and down and keeps saying this word over and over and over. And I don't know what this word means. I says, well, what is it? And she says, she's saying Tweety. Now, look, when I was 1 year old, my father's mother would keep me after we moved near them. And she would call me Sweetie, and I couldn't say Sweetie, so I called her Tweety, and I'm the oldest grandkid, so that became Grandma's name. And she says she was trying to get her to tell me that Tweety had come. And then she says, oh, she's got a little white poodle in her arms. My grandmother was a poodle breeder. Every one of them AKC registered. But she had a favorite that never left her arm, and his name was Pierre. And he went with her everywhere. So I just knew she was in contact with some of my deceased relatives. So that really stoked my curiosity, Bob. So I just insisted that we talk about the things she experiences so I could figure out what was going on. And she says, well, maybe this guy won't think I'm crazy. And she began telling me her dreams. And her dreams were classical, absolutely classical abduction experiences and UFO visitations with missing time. And I really poked and prodded to see, had she been following all this? Had she read any books? How she might come to this? And she couldn't even say the nomenclature around this stuff. So I began showing her evidence that many people across the United States and the world were experiencing this stuff, and that in fact her experiences were regular pieces of what other people who had been abducted by these entities had experienced. And then just went from there, and we really got interested in the exploration of it. And then kind of the last incident that I can tell you was, I was laying in my bed. At the time I lived in Alabama, and in the corner of my bedroom, something forms and walks toward my bed. And it's a teenage boy. And he walks to the edge of my bed and just stares at me. Dark eyes, just stares at me, and then disappears. And I told her about it. I said, have you had anything like that before? She says, I've had things come in my room. And I said, it's a teenage boy, maybe 13 or 14 years old. And then I had this intuition. And I asked, because she and I were interacting a lot, I went, do you have a teenage picture of your father? She showed me the picture, and it was her father that had walked up on me. And so I'm going like, wow. I mean, I'm a scientist, been a scientist for decades.
He'd probably say, I'm going to kick your ass if you mess up. Because that's what he did. He would say, I have a shotgun and I'm not afraid to use it to my boyfriends.
And anyway, so after that, we just kind of got together, and then we moved into this house in Maryland together, and it's been cuckoo ever since.
What do you've been a scientist. What do you make of it all then?
All I know to do right now is do what every decent scientist who involves themselves in experiment does when they don't really have a theory. They gather all the data they can, all the data they can. And once they feel they have enough data, they start guessing at what might be behind it. And we're still in the data gathering mode, though this thing that walked up on us and later talked to her told her what our job was. And I've had other people identify that thing in there as an Arcturian gray. And then we had just one other event before that. We had this camera out back to get all these crap. So something flew down like a light thing, landed on the deck. You can hear it go thump. And then the light gets really bright. And as the light fades, there's left behind a humanoid light being.
That's on video.
That's on video that people will go look at it. And it reached up and grabbed our camera while it was still bright and moved it to a different direction, and then went back into a ball and took off. That entire thing is in our video evidence. And since then, the house it pointed the camera at has been non-stop the source of activity on it, above it, and around it. Of non-human intelligence coming in and out of portals, shining ray beams down on the roof of the house, and when it does, the roof becomes transparent. We've had a non-stop stream of that stuff.
Have you had anybody knocking at your door like Men in Black or anything?
Nope.
Asking you questions or anything like that?
None. We think we're under surveillance, but they're not coming close.
I think they're aware. I've heard that. Well, I'm O negative blood. My parents are O negative blood. I've heard that we're monitored by the GOV. That's just what I've heard. And then
Yeah.
also I have an implant still. We're monitored by something else, so I don't think they need to come knocking. They show up. I think they show up when we're sleeping and they do things. Both entities.
Yeah, that is, she has Basque ancestry. She's just got every marker you could possibly imagine.
Weirdo.
She's a true weirdo, and she's got a weirdo boyfriend.
And the Soper Carper said, "Where can we see these videos, please?"
Yeah,
Facebook.
On Facebook.
For either of us, they're public. You don't have to be friends.
On your Facebook pages.
Yeah, there's a photo album called Things from Our Cameras, or Pictures from Our Cameras. And so they click on that and they'll see hundreds of things.
And that video with the thing that showed up and moved the camera, that's go down a year, and it's there. I'll try to find it and post it again so it's newer.
We've got so much in there now. We need to organize it in groups and mark them by date. So the other thing that people will find in there is, one morning she woke up and had this triangular bruise on her arm. No idea where it came from. And since bruises last a long time on her, it was interesting that 2 days later it was gone. Mm-hmm. So the night before, we have a video in the front yard where something walks up on the porch and comes through the door. And we got a screen grab of one of the frames and enhanced it, and you can see that ghost, that weird smoke stuff again, and that tall gray figure in it. And that's the thing that walked right in the front door, and we think abducted her, because I didn't wake up until 10:30 or 11 the next day. It had completely suppressed and nullified me, and did whatever it did to her that caused that mark.
Yeah,
she has a scoop mark in her eye right here, and an implant right here, and an implant in her leg. And the implant here regularly sends out transmitted radio energy, because I've measured it.
Ah, right. That's good.
Yeah,
good job you measured that.
The human body does not transmit RF power like that. She was clearly beaconing RF power.
Joanne's just saying here, my daughter's reads negative blood. She's pregnant and just found out her baby is too.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You're going to have an interesting life.
If it's her first, if it's her first baby and she's O negative, I believe she has to get a shot. But if it's not her first, then she don't have to get it.
I'm sure Joanne will get back to us on that.
Please do. And good luck, Joanne.
I think
good luck.
Rogam shot or something.
Whatever. Yeah. If the father is not RH negative, there can be issues, but there's a way to take care of it through neonatal care.
She just said it's her first.
No. Yeah, to ask the doctor about.
Ask the doctor about RH negative incompatibility, and they'll take care of it.
Because our bodies, if it's not a pure O negative family, our bodies will.
She's negative, she said, I think.
Yeah, if the dad isn't, our bodies kill the baby because we see it as a disease or not. It's weird. I don't know why.
But they can take care of it. Just go to the doctor.
She said they've said her second will need shots.
Just talk to a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exciting.
That's very exciting, and good luck.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Good luck, yeah. You know what? All this what's been happening to you over the years. Then you had a break from it. What was it like having a break from it then, and not thinking about waking up or somebody in your bedroom or somebody coming into your house? How did that feel?
I missed it. I did.
But I got really, really busy, started doing science work at a university near us, and I built this equipment that would bounce signals off the ionosphere, and we did a big experiment during the recent solar eclipse. So I was staying busy, and we started a podcast, and that kept us a little busy, but we're happy that we're all back into gathering evidence now.
I bet you really deep down you missed it all, didn't you?
Yeah, but so I feel I have a task to do, and I needed a little break because the need the need for what I can do and the technology to enable what I can do is just now available. It's like just in time delivery.
Have you spoken to a lots of abductees then? What's
Oh
things
my,
that
yeah.
happen to
Oh
them?
my, yes. Oh yes. Yeah, we're friends with lots of abductors. For example, Melinda Leslie and Lorian Fenton are really good friends to us.
We just spent time.
We just spent time with them, and we interact with them all the time. And Melinda Leslie is a person to follow if you want to know about being abducted, because she's had every kind of experience you can imagine.
My lab too.
My lab,
Yeah.
hybrid. Remember, got to meet her hybrid child. Oh yeah, it really emotionally impacted her, and she is now out living near, and she doesn't know why she went there, but she was drawn to there, and she is living near and acquiring evidence with a television crew and an investigative team of a deep underground military base where helicopters and triangular UFOs fly out of the ground every single night and getting evidence of it near Sedona, Arizona.
You know, you talked about this triangle in your arm. It seems to happen, I'm not saying quite regular to people, but can you feel it in your arm then?
No, it doesn't hurt. I only noticed because it was so dark, and I know I didn't hit anything the day before or during my sleep. There's nothing to hit it on that would make that shape. So,
I grabbed a photo of it, which is in that evidence we told people about.
Camera talked about it.
Yeah, Grant Cameron talked about it. But I put it in Google Lens, and it showed me a bunch of pictures like it, and it looks like one of these pneumatic hypodermic injector marks, where they go and it shoots medicine into your arm and leaves a little bruise. That's what it looked like.
Kind of like when you go, maybe like when you go to a club, they give you a stamp. Maybe.
Me, you went to the wrong club and they gave you a weird stamp.
A question from Alex. Is there always a reason certain people are abducted, and is it's not ever random or bad luck?
I want you to imagine the logistics of preparing to come in some weird craft, walk into somebody's house, put them under your control, do weird things to them. You know they have a purpose. And so lots of people guess different reasons for their purpose, whether it's they're trying to fix a genetic flaw in themselves, to they're here to breed hybrid children so they can take over the planet. There are all sorts of reasons, and we just need to keep gathering evidence so we can try to figure it out. Because I got to tell you right now, we are not getting full disclosure from any government. We're just not.
A lot of times, if someone's being abducted, their parents and grandparents before them also went through it. They usually stick with the family. Which
that says to me it's genetics.
Yes, yeah, I agree there. I know I interviewed a couple, oh my God, 7 years ago. They lived together. She was pregnant at the time. They both got abducted into a craft. I think she was 3 months pregnant at the time. They got abducted to the craft. He was on one table. She was on the other table. They actually took a baby away. She didn't realize that till they went back into bed. She had blood all over everywhere. Anyway, she went to doctors, and he said, your baby's vanished. I don't know how they've done it or anything like that.
Did they tell her your body reabsorbed it overnight?
And he said, I just don't know what, I can't see anything how they've taken the baby away. The point about it, they both split up and gone their separate ways, but for the show, they came together to talk about it, about their experiences.
Right.
I was going to try and find them again. And I thought, my God, that must have been dreadful.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
So Melinda Leslie has now memories of her being experimented on and having hybrid babies. And there's a woman named Geraldine Orozco who is a regular guest on Spaced Out Radio. That woman has had many hybrid children, and they deal with the hurt of it, or they don't survive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, what you go through life sometimes, and um, but a lot of people keep it secret. They
Hmm.
don't know who to go to. Who do you go to?
Right.
Especially when I think these two of them, I think they were in the 20s. So it's quite hard, how do you cope?
They're young.
Well, I think it's become more acceptable to talk about it in groups, and these groups are people that provide emotional support, and it's really helpful. Now, I'm also just absolutely convinced that every dadgum one of these groups has a government spy in it. So, just be ready for it. Realize they're there. They usually don't bother people. They're there to gather evidence because the government has to wonder what is the hidden agenda behind all these people being taken, abducted, and subjected to hybrid breeding experiments.
But also, for my case, for most of my life, even now, I joke around, call it alien Xanax, but they really they numb me to the point where I don't want to research it. I don't want to talk about it. I literally have no desire. They take that desire away from me so that I keep quiet. And I find myself now trying to fight through it to look into things more. It's the strangest thing. So I know there's groups, but if I'm going through this, there's probably more abductees that are being numbed, and they don't even realize there are groups to talk to. So that's why we'd like to talk about it so people, self-disclosure, not only realize there's something out there, but realize that you're not weird, you can get help in some fashion,
So there's a question down here, but let me first say,
Yeah,
I would think the major personal contribution I made to her is not my august and handsome presence. It's that I kept poking her and asking her with questions till she forced herself to deal with it because she wasn't dealing with it. She was hiding from it, didn't want to tell anybody, and realized that I was not going to criticize her or treat her badly. The interaction freed her to talk about it, but we should ask this question.
Okay.
yeah,
If you
Melvin
ask Ada
saying
any questions, what would you
if
be
you've got abducted and you could ask the aliens any questions, what would you be asking them, please?
Ladies first.
Oh boy. I mean, I'd be a smart ass, be like, why did you choose Earth to put me? I mean, why am I here, first of all? And can't you leave me some presents when you abduct me? I mean, what's so wrong with that? I'm not asking much.
Yeah, flower.
I would ask why. Yeah, flowers. I would ask why me. Why? Just why?
That I know. I'm a geek from since I was old enough to think about being a science geek. I'd ask, how does the craft work?
Yeah, you would.
Yes.
That was the
Another,
main question when we first started talking was, can you safely tell me how they run the craft? And I'm like, they're not going to tell me that.
No. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. They said, tell that guy he's got to shove his ego in the background and do what's right, and maybe then we'll tell him. They were nicer, but I added a little slap in the face for emphasis. That's literally what they told her to tell me. I mean, look, can you imagine telling some person you've just met and building a friendship with, you got to shove your ego back, buddy? I mean, she doesn't pull any punches, and they told her what to say.
They weren't lying.
They were never not lying. They were not lying.
Another, this question's from Steph. Would either of you consider regression to find out what exactly happened with the missing time? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. But, okay, look, doing these regressions is really expensive. So we have agreed that we want a specific ask. And if people will go back and look at Bob Luca and Betty Andreas and Luca's history, the thing that Bob did was he taught the hypnotherapist into enabling him to continue to do the memory recovery. I want that. She wants that, so that once we go through this regression and they're fully believing in our ability to continue these sessions, recording them and figuring it out, then we will do it. But we have to have somebody who agrees to help us learn how to do it for ourselves, because the volume of material that I am absolutely convinced is going to come out of her will be as many books as Bob Luca wrote about Betty.
Or someone
Yes.
that will have, like, maybe somebody with a sliding scale. If they don't want to do that, someone who could do it less, because it's a couple $100. It's almost what, half 500 sometimes.
Yep.
So if we could find somebody to help, but I would want to know, where do I go? Why is it happening? But I also would like to know who did come to me and do, when I woke up to something happening. I would like to see if I could find out what type of entity or being that was, and why isn't there a law where they can't do that? I didn't know they could touch you and do things, I mean, I've heard about people getting scratches, and I wasn't sure if I believed it. I believe it now, so.
Given that she's experienced all that stuff nonstop since we started living together.
Like, why isn't it being stopped? How can that happen? That's what I would want to know.
I think they're preparing the two of us to do a bunch of stuff that's upcoming. And I seem to be involved in regular discussions and all sorts of things on social media, and providing some kind of grounding influence in a lot of these groups. And I think it's helpful, because I've got to tell you, there are some really smart people that are doing research into UFOs that nobody ever heard of them. And I mean, these people are really, really smart. They're dragging up 50 pages worth of book and talking about it, and nobody's ever heard any of this. What is with all this freaking secrecy? Write the stuff down so we can all look at it.
Right.
But if you go in the right places, the community of people looking into all of this is full of brilliant people that have calm exteriors and quiet, contemplative minds, and that's what we need.
Thank you, Steph, for that question. One from Alex now. Lala, through your own experience, how many different species of ET are you aware of?
That I personally am aware of, probably a handful. I know there's the Greys, the Palladians, the Lyrans, however you want to say it. Arcturians. And other, I'm not sure. I've seen shadow people. Nobody really knows exactly what they are, but maybe that's another ET. But I know, just from listening to people, that there's probably thousands of different types. When we started doing videos outside, I always imagined them having eyes and the big head and the gray face, but they're all different types. Some don't even have faces like we would think. It's just there's many, many, many different living beings that we just don't see. ETs,
The human light energy being that fell on our deck in the back and moved the camera, it had no facial features, just a humanoid shape.
So like what do they call them, light beings?
Some kind of light energy
and light
being.
language and stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but maybe a handful for me, but there's thousands.
And we got one entity walked up on our front porch, and you could make out the figure as it came up there. And I asked somebody to do photo forensic analysis on the photo and look at the video, and they enhanced it. And I looked for things that are like it, and it was a Susquehanna River area Native American spirit man called a Manitou. for the ancient American, the tribes. And it was just amazing to see that thing on our front porch in kind of spiritual form.
Sometimes the things we've seen here have scared me. Not because they're bad, just because I wasn't expecting any of this, really. It's validating and it's nice, but it can be overwhelming sometimes. And they pick up on it and they'll go away until you're ready, until you don't have that fear of them. That's what I learned that was interesting. They can feel you and they will react in a kind way to that.
This nonstop experience of being in and around Lala with constant examples has led me to train my mind toward thinking on the underpinning and modeling of consciousness in some way that hopefully, but my goal is pretty simple. I don't care about making money off of it at all. No. I care about understanding how consciousness is thermodynamically coupled to the other parts of physics of the universe and space-time, so that, for example, I could provide an explanation for telekinesis, for example, or remote viewing, or those kinds of things, to understand the basics of how it works. If we got a basics for understanding how it works, I believe the earth would be transformed forever.
Sounds interesting, that does as well. Do you communicate through consciousness then, Lala?
Okay, I have really bad ADD, so I wouldn't call it consciousness, but I just speak from my heart. Maybe that is consciousness. I don't know. I just calm myself and I mean what I say and I have good intentions and they respond sometimes quickly, sometimes it takes a couple weeks, but they always respond.
And here's my clue.
In other words, I can't meditate.
She can't. So here's my clue of when she is having a conscious experience.
Yeah.
She'll turn up to the right and look up and sit there for a second, kind of in a daze, and come back and start repeating what was told her. And I realized it's something external to her that is communicating with her telepathically.
Which is normal. Everybody can do it. And it doesn't, sometimes I'm like, am I losing my mind? But then I'll share what I'm getting and it means something to someone else. So sometimes it does feel like maybe it's your own thoughts, but you'll know. You'll just have that feeling. Believe me. It's hard to, sometimes you battle with yourself about it, but you'll just know the meaning, the messages for you from them.
Let me add that with my interactions with all sorts of people, especially these whistleblowers that are coming out and have been involved in the secret programs and stuff, there are at least mantids, tall grays, short grays, tall whites, etc., reptilians, draconians. Those are the ones that all of these people claim our government knows about.
Exactly.
Yeah, the reptilians are a big thing.
A big thing, and they may not be fully hostile toward us, but they don't care at us and view us as cattle.
I think maybe there's a few good ones. It's like humans. There's some bad ones and some good ones. We don't know, but usually there's bad stories about them, but there might be some good ones. I don't know. Just in case.
I think there are good ones. Like the ones that are interacting with us, they've been nothing but good. But the reptilians, they view us as cattle.
Okay, well, you can get eaten. I'm not pissing them
off. But, do you think we'll ever get disclosure then?
No, not from the government.
From them, years from now.
Part of what we're supposed to be doing is figuring out how to put enough evidence out in self-disclosure so that we don't need the government to become convinced. The real thing is to raise our level of consciousness so that we can interact with them directly. And I think the government hates people like us because they want to be between us and them. They want to be in the middle. And these entities don't want them in the middle.
And also, I think there have been a lot more sightings and people share it online, the internet. But I think what we also have to work on is unnumbing people. So they say, "Oh, I won't believe until I see a ship land in my backyard." But I bet you if it did, they'd be like, "Yeah, whatever. What's on for football?" Like we're numbed as a society, and it's not our fault. We're made to be numb so that we don't react to this kind of stuff. So it's a mixture of disclosure is a mixture of us and them.
Okay, get them off my lawn. I want to go look at the Man United game.
Seriously.
Yeah,
And we're not going to get President Biden or President Trump walking out to a lectern and saying, "Folks, there's aliens here, and look, see, he came by to say hello to you." No, it's not happening.
I think there's more people understanding it more now and saying, "So what?"
Yeah.
Well, you know it is. There was a 64-page law passed by the Senate and put into the law process by the Senate Majority Leader, the most powerful Democrat in all of Congress. And he and his Republican and other Democratic friends wrote this 64-page addition to the National Defense Authorization Act. And in that piece, it said non-human intelligence 24 times. Non-human remains multiple times. Crash retrievals, all right there in black and white. And you think they did that? So some goofy people with no evidence came and told them they should do that and risk their reputation? No, they did it because they know the truth and they're trying to figure out how in the heck can they tell the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know where you are.
You logic people. This is real, or people like that would never come forward with laws like that.
You know, we don't see much of it in the UK on TV.
Really?
Your government has suppressed it better than anyone.
Especially the BBC.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're under the government thumb. And look, when your Minister for Defense came before Parliament and got directly asked a question, and either she is ignorant on purpose or lied. Neither of them good.
Do you think, when we're talking about that, do you think the presidents of the United States, going back years, do they know what's been happening then? Do they know about alien visitations and all that? Or they are not allowed to say anything?
Some do and some don't. So I believe that Ronald Reagan was briefed. George Herbert Walker Bush was the director of the CIA, and he knew because he was the person that arranged for Ron Pandolfi to brief Jimmy Carter, who put his hands in his face and cried when he got the briefing. And then Clinton was denied, and W knew something, I don't know what, and I don't think they trusted to tell Trump much.
True, yeah, exactly. I know Steph's just saying here, I know he said Gary McNichon talked about non-terrestrial beings when he hacked NASA.
Oh.
It's more than that. He found a spreadsheet with a list of officers in our secret spaceship fleet.
Mm.
Yeah, it was, I mean, they really wanted that guy under their thumb.
They never got him, did they?
Well, I'm glad your government protected him.
Yes, I am too.
I didn't know that happened. I haven't watched TV, but I had no idea somebody hacked NASA.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
and
no.
found this server with this lots of evidence that they did not intend to be public, but he got through their firewall and went there and got this list of officers in the extraterrestrial fleet of the United States.
I'm gonna look that
Yeah,
up.
that's true. Yeah, yeah. I bet he's got lots to tell people. and it's probably briefed some of our government ministers as well, or should I say, the big boys, about
Well,
what needs to be.
they probably said this has been declared a national secret, and under the National Secrets Act, shut the
Yeah,
blank up.
yeah, exactly.
Official Secrets Act, shut the blank up,
And we'll look after you.
and we'll take care of you. Don't worry.
Yes,
I am
exactly.
sure that is the deal they worked out with him, not to extradite him to the United States. And they worked at and got the United States to agree to it with the proviso that if he didn't keep quiet, they would make him quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It'll vanish.
Mm-hmm.
Without a trace. The North Sea is cold and wild.
Well, we've got about 4 minutes left. Tell us about your podcast you do.
So we fiddled around, and made up this name, Orbis Paranormal, which means the globe of paranormal stuff. So, and we got into all of this as together with orbs everywhere, in the house, out of the house, flying through our sky. We've got dozens of pieces of orb evidence. And when Grant Cameron found out that me, scientist, was with Lala Bright Experiencer, and we were seeing orbs, he founded the group, the Orb Study Group. And people have no clue. They have no clue. In 1 month, from Orb Experiencers all over the world, we collected and put on for display 1 million pieces of orb evidence from all over the world. And some of it is unreal.
Different colors.
Different colors. There's a woman in the UK that gets these things that are bigger than a barn in her backyard. And she's constant contact with them. And they can call them at will. And you go, wow. And so Grant Cameron is kind of my inspiration for why because he is getting downloads nonstop. And he knows that what he needs to be working on now is consciousness. And so I'm going to work on it technically.
Just before we go, there's another question for Bob. Message for Bob. Don't you think that ordinary day people that have experienced UFOs or UAPs know a lot more than the governments and NASA? By the way, I hate the governments. He hates the government and NASA as well.
So I believe that there are many, many more people like what he's talking about than those who interact and know the truth inside of the government, because they've done everything they can to suppress it. The United States and its security powers over the Five Eyes countries has got them to suppress the evidence because there's something in it they don't want to tell. Now, what do I think? I think in it, and all this stuff that's gone on since World War II, they have found the existence of something, a defensive and or offensive weapon that they are desperate for our peer adversaries not to get a hold of, and they don't want it to leak out. That and or they realize that if they released some of this technology, it would destroy many of the industries that run and organize the world, like petroleum and other things. I just think there are a lot of people, and a lot of people know. They're coming here and tell us, stop destroying your planet, do things a different way. And they probably know how to keep us from destroying our planet, but it would wreck all their petroleum buddies.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that as well. You know, it's like tablet. If they can cure diseases and things like that.
I put up on Twitter my version of a constitutional amendment in the United States that would forbid lying to the American people and the public. And I think I'm going to write a Medium article and put it up.
Well, you know, every year a few doctors that do find cures for cancer, they end up dead every year. They do. or have a heart attack or something, go missing.
And how many energy patents are bought and buried? They're in the hundreds now, Bob.
Oh, yes.
And you can find their existence. You can't read them.
Yeah. Everybody who's puts a patent in for it to find out where they are, go visit and say, look, we'll give you so much. That's it. Finished, mate.
And it's destroyed. It's destroyed. All of this secrecy and lying has destroyed all faith in government everywhere. They're arranging for their own failure.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Well, we're just about finished the show. Yeah, I spoke to Grant Cameron last week.
Oh, cool.
Well, he's doing such really neat work, and he is writing like a demon. He really is trying to pump out the writing and doing a great job.
Yeah,
he's turning over all of his notes to, I believe it's the guy that wrote the UFO Triangles book, but it could be I don't know. He's turning it over to the public. He's not going to charge for it or give it to one person. He's going to give it all away, everything he's ever gotten. I'm sure there are people that are scared.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
He sat on the Edgar Mitchell Wilson Davis notes for a decade before because he was scared to bring it out. He thought he might disappear.
And that's what usually happens.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't look after yourself, you've gone, vanished.
The two of us love Grant Cameron. He is a
I love him.
Very nice man.
Very nice. Yeah.
Thank you to everybody in the chat room for messages. Joanne just said, great show. Thank you to everyone. When do you do your podcast then?
Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
And anybody who wants to find the photos and everywhere is
on the album and our Facebook accounts. We jointly own the album, and all our evidence that we think is worth looking at goes in there.
Thank you for that. Thank you to everybody in the chat room for the very good questions as well. And they answered them all. I've got a great guest on Friday. He's one of the twins of the King Sellers. I've got Ronnie on Friday night, but we're going to do the show at 8 o'clock because he can't do it till 8 o'clock at night. Instead of saying, no, we can't do it, I said, no problem. We'll do an hour later. 8 p.m. on Friday night with Ronnie Kingseller, talking about UFOs and lots of different things, about his own experiences, him and his twin when they were growing up. So thank you to Bob and Lala. It's been a great show as usual.
Thank you very much.
We love being on with you, Bob.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you again sometime.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Just finish the show.